There's a diverse series of topics on my mind in the news, but honestly, it's just this Delta variant. That's what's dominating, given the fact that vaccinations have slightly picked up due to people getting a little bit more freaked out about the Delta variant, but obviously not enough. We are seeing continuous ramp ups in average cases every day. And that's going to result in an increase in deaths and hospitalizations, no doubt. We're already seeing an increase in hospitalizations. So, you have Ben Shapiro, we talked about this the other day, saying the only thing that matters is deaths, discounting that long COVID is a real thing and people are going to face untold ramifications. A significant proportion of people are going to face ramifications, mental, physical, from having COVID.
Or if you have some other medical issue going on, and for instance, you're in Arkansas and there's only 6 ICU beds in the entire state available. In other states, it got down to that. North Dakota, I think earlier, Dakotas aren't seeing the spike yet, but Texas has been seeing, like Austin County is seeing a lot of, or Travis County is seeing a lot of shortages of beds and stuff like that. And that has, knock-on effects. I mean, particularly for COVID people, that's when you're going to see deaths rise when you hit capacity, but also for other health issues.
Right, exactly. So yes, if you're feeling sick and you need to go to the hospital and you're in Florida or you're in Missouri or you're in Arkansas, some of these places that are facing difficulties, it's going to be hard. And that is a direct result of our vaccine hesitancy in mass in this country. We're seeing countries and the European Union, which was behind us initially, Canada, which was behind us initially, surpassing us already in vaccination rates because there isn't this religious obsessiveness with not getting vaccinated. Speaking of COVID, which I know everybody is sick of hearing it, but unfortunately, we've got to keep talking about it because Republicans like Ron DeSantis need to prove their COVID denial bona fides, to borrow an often used Sam phrase, since he did say a few weeks ago that vaccines are saving lives, and that cannot be abided if he wants to be president in 2024. So he is committing to actions that are performative for his base but have deadly consequences in his particularly gruesome and pompous fashion, and is threatening to withhold funds from schools that uphold mask mandates, which is, yeah, that's exactly as bad as it sounds. And Greg Abbott is, I think, mulling over something similar in Texas. They're both competing for the worst guy in the country award. 1 in 5 new COVID cases are coming out of Florida. Regardless, here he is complaining that Joe Biden is talking about what's happening in Florida.
Joe Biden has taken to himself to try to single out Florida over COVID. This is a guy who ran for president saying he was going to, quote, shut down the virus. And what has he done? He's imported more virus from around the world by having a wide open southern border.
Right. I mean, he continues on the border in a second. But yeah, Biden is singling out Florida for some arbitrary reason. Not the stat I just mentioned, that 1 in 5 cases in the United States is coming out of COVID. He's just singling them out because of something arbitrary, like Florida hospitalizing over 100 or 11,000 COVID patients the other day, breaking its own record, I think 3 days in a row from last July. And by the way, deaths are about to get worse in the state too, because as I mentioned, deaths, there's a lag because you're hospitalized for weeks or months in some instances once you're unvaccinated, mostly, and you get COVID, and then it takes you a little while to die. A year ago, Florida was averaging, I have this here, about 180 COVID-19 deaths per day in August. And last week it averaged 58 per day. But right now, there are 2,400 coronavirus patients in intensive care. And I wish them well. I really hope this isn't the case, but very likely that deaths will follow there. But here is DeSantis' suggestion for Joe Biden's leadership, since he's got such a great handle on things himself.
Why don't you do your job? Why don't you get this border secure? And until you do that, I don't want to hear a blip about COVID from you. Thank you.
Pretty sure that's the definition of whataboutism, but he's trying to link the two, right? He's trying to say that COVID is coming over our border.
I mean, it's the basis sort of like the other is bringing the disease in, sort of fascism.
Yeah, exactly. It's
and I just want to say, like, Biden hasn't opened the border. There's a lot of people being detained and being sent back to countries that they're trying to seek asylum from because we haven't just opened the border. And then these people will, like, that's the same, like Ted Cruz wants to talk about kids in cages, right? Because he just likes to mirror the previous rhetoric. And then we simultaneously have this open border of diseased illegals. Like, it's just disgusting.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what Biden does. As I mentioned in headlines, Biden, since February, has doubled the amount of people who are detained in this country. Biden has continued funding ICE, has only shut down 2 detention facilities, even though ICE as an organization is relatively young and could be disbanded and reimagined in ways that are a lot more constructive. And
we can take just simply more refugees and asylum seekers and immigrants in this country. We have room, and we have an obligation, frankly.
Well, of course, yeah, because a lot of, I know it's difficult to reckon with because it doesn't completely square with American exceptionalist rhetoric. A lot of refugees throughout the world are in that position as a direct result of our own involvement in toppling governments. So he returns to that as easily as anybody can. It's muscle memory for that guy. But my recollection in U.S. geography is that Florida doesn't share a border with Mexico. Not sure what he's referring to in his state's case in terms of what's coming over their border. Maybe there's just, mass submarines from all of the scary countries that have black and brown people in them that are bringing COVID in blankets or, just breathing into people's mouths. But the reality is that his failed vaccine push, which wasn't a push at all, at the last minute, he freaked out, said something positive about vaccines, and we're supposed to give him a cookie. That it's failed, and it's his failed leadership that is the reason that the president is singling out his state. There's nothing else. There's no other reason that you can deflect from. You can't run away from this. Your state is in one of the worst shapes in the country, and that's a direct result of your own incompetence and / I guess targeted cultural nonsense.
Folks, there's more of what you've just saw where that came from. That's if you hit the subscribe and like button. Thank you. Really, thank you.